Tesla issues another round of recalls for their electric semis. Volvo has teamed up with the University of Minnesota to test their electric vehicle batteries and their performance in extreme temperatures. And the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration have announced that they're moving forward with a proposal to mandate automatic emergency braking systems for vehicles with a gross weight of 10,000 pounds or more. We'll also dive into the latest driver trends, freight numbers, spot rates, and check in with our good friend Jason Miller for his monthly economic update. For Randall Reilly, I'm Joshua Miller, and this is the 30-Day Reset. Welcome to the 30-Day Reset. We're here every month with updates on the latest recruiting numbers, news stories, and economic trends. If you'd like a copy of everything we'll go over today, click the link down below. There's also consultation information down there, so if you'd like to get in touch with us and find out how we can work together, click that link or fill out the form. And finally, if you like our monthly updates here on the 30-Day Reset, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It really helps us out. Now, let's get into the data, shall we? First up, Trucking by the Numbers, brought to you by Stratus Strategize. The cost of trucking has risen 34% per mile since 2021. Recovery could be slow and means the market will likely remain unfavorable to carriers for at least another year. All of this together means competition for drivers will more than likely remain relatively low as we move into 2024, allowing carriers to be more selective in which drivers they hire. For those currently in the market to hire, it remains an advantageous time to do so, as job seekers continue to show high intent in finding CDL jobs. But the supply available is lower than in the previous couple of years. The number of searches for driving jobs in May hit its third highest level in the past year and is only 8% off the highest point on record, which was back in April of 2022. Click costs continue to remain favorable, with Facebook's June cost per click on pace to be at its lowest level since July of 2020. In addition to low hire costs, conversion rates continue to rise and have now set new record highs for 6 consecutive months. These high conversions, combined with that low click cost, are driving the overall low lead costs. And speaking of lead costs, the CPL for June is down 35% year over year and 51% compared to just 2 years ago. If you really want to sink your teeth into more data like average CPLs, CPHs, lead to hire ratios, and even advertised salary distribution and wage ranges, check out Stratus Strategize. On the freight side of things, total load volume was down by 1.8%, which is down 43% year over year and 31% when you compare it to the 5-year average. Dry van loads were up 11% for the week, refrigerated increased by 18%, but flatbed came in with a decrease of 14%. And although dry van and refrigerated both saw load increases in the short term, both were well under the totals posted on the same week of last year and the 5-year averages. Total spot rates fell by 5 cents per mile, which is a 23% drop year over year and is down 5.5% when you compare it to the 5-year average. Dry van rates were up 5 cents per mile. Refrigerated was also up by 2 cents, but again, flatbed saw a decrease of 7 cents per mile. For more details on the freight and spot data, including all of the year over year and 5-year average breakdowns, you can check out this month's 30-Day Reset download, which is, again, available in the links down below. Now, on to this month's news stories. Volvo is teaming up with the University of Minnesota to conduct some extreme weather testing for its Class 8 VNR electric models. They'll be testing the batteries to examine the impact of temperature to the battery life with cold temperatures with Murphy Logistics Solutions in Minnesota and hot temperatures in the Texas summer heat with the HEB Grocery Company. The testing, aimed at demonstrating real-world capability of Volvo's electric trucks, is part of the BEST, or Battery Efficiency for Sustainable Trucks project, which happens to be sponsored by the U.S. Department of Energy. And speaking of electric trucks, another major player in the EV world, Tesla, has issued a recall for its electric semi. Reason being, the door open warning indicator light only displays when the parking brake is not engaged and the side door is not fully latched. Good news is the number of trucks affected is only 36 units, as Tesla Semi's production is still very limited. But this is the second round of recalls with the trucks, the first coming in March after an issue with the electronic parking brake valve module. Elon Musk has stated that the company plans to ramp up production and produce 50,000 semis in 2024. And finally, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration have announced a soon-to-be-published proposed rule mandating automatic emergency braking systems, or AEBs, for heavy trucks. The new rule states, considering the effectiveness of AEB and electronic stability control technology, or ESC, at avoiding these crashes, the proposed rule would conservatively prevent an estimated 19,118 crashes, save 155 lives, and reduce 8,814 non-fatal injuries annually once all vehicles covered in this rule are equipped with AEB and ESC. It is worth noting that the two agencies have stated they will not propose retrofitting requirements, and so far the proposed rule has received praise and support from the American Trucking Associations and the Truck Safety Coalition. That does it for this month's news stories. Now let's check in with Jason Miller for his latest economic update.
So this month, we finally did get some good news on the housing market front, which is what I'm going to start by focusing on. So May's data for single-family housing starts, which, while preliminary, showed a nice 19% jump on a seasonally adjusted basis from April. Now, I'm guessing this will not hold after revision, so we can't get too excited yet. But this is an extremely encouraging sign when coupled with two additional pieces of information. The first is that building material retailers saw a nice, larger than expected increase in their sales in May as well from separate Census Bureau data. Second, the National Association of Home Builders and Wells Fargo Housing Market Index is showing the first movement into expansionary territory in over a year. So it does seem that things are starting to look up from the single-family housing perspective. And hopefully what this means is that we'll start seeing home building fall in between where it was in the second half of 2020 and 2019. Now, probably closer to those 2019 levels than 2020 levels, but nonetheless, this is a good sign for flatbed carriers as well as dry van carriers. Now, shifting gears and thinking about where we're at for the import situation. Right now, import activity in terms of containers is down about 17% from where it was this time last year. And that's due to the drawdown of consumer demand coupled with retailers and wholesalers having too much inventory. However, imports are still actually 8% above where they were in 2019, but that is being unequally felt depending on the coast of the United States where your port is at. For the West Coast, import levels are essentially where they were in 2019. For the East and Gulf Coast ports, though, import levels are up substantially from where they were in 2019 and are actually very near 2021 levels. For those of you wondering why this dynamics occurred, it really has taken place because retailers, wholesalers, manufacturers in 2022 started to shift volume away from the West Coast due to the initial logjam issues that took place in 2021 at the West Coast ports, and then due to the uncertainty about a West Coast port strike. Now, given many of these investments require building warehouses, building transloading facilities, my guess is that even with a West Coast labor contract in the works and probably going to move forward, it's going to be hard for the West Coast ports to really claw back a lot of that volume. So I'm expecting 2021 and 22 will be peak West Coast port volume for the foreseeable future. Then as we focus more domestically on manufacturing, we have seen the last 2 months some encouraging signs from the Federal Reserve Board's industrial production data, suggesting that manufacturing activity has at least bottomed out and recovered a little bit on a seasonally adjusted basis from March levels and especially December 2022 levels. And hopefully, moving flat, if not starting to increase a little bit. But the key thing is this is going to take a while to see further rebounds in activity, especially when you look at how sectors such as paper manufacturing are still struggling in terms of demand. And so if I had to summarize the thesis right now is that we do increasingly appear to be in the trough of this freight recession in terms of demand. We're starting to see some green shoots, but I would also urge caution to say it's unlikely that we're going to come out of this cycle in a strong manner, certainly in 2023, and that will likely need to wait until 2024.
Thanks so much for that, Jason. As always, your expertise and insights are greatly appreciated. And with that, we have reached the end of yet another episode of the 30-Day Reset. And I know I sound like a broken record here, but don't forget, you can download your own free copy of all the data and information we covered today down below. The download for July 2023 not only hits everything I talked about, but it goes into more detail than I'm really able to go into here, and it has charts, graphs, and even more recruiting figures. So click the link down there and get your own copy now. If you'd like to talk to our team about how we can apply some of that data to help you reach your goals or even demo strategize, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be back next month with another brand new episode of the 30-Day Reset. Until then, if you just can't get enough of our content, you can check out some of our other videos right here, like that one, selected especially for you. No? Okay. How about this playlist up there with my good buddy Seth Becker's show, Listening In? And hey, don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.